Family and friends, what's going on? Man, I hope you're having a great day. I hope you had a great week. I hope you're doing blessed. I really do. I really do. And we're about to start a series called Faith and Trust. The Faith and Trust series. I pray that this blesses you. I know it's going to bless me. I'm always blessed even when teaching. But I pray that this study blesses you. It's going to be about faith and trust. And the first lesson will be in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1. Well, one verse in chapter 1, and we'll be looking mainly at chapter 2. But it is called Possessing the Land. Possessing the Land. And before we get into it, I want to read a scripture out of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 11, and it says, "Now all these things happen unto them for examples or in samples, and they are written for our admonition, or they are written for our encouragement, our exhortation. They're written for us." All these things that are in the Old Testament, it always has a practical, physical application, and a lot of them have spiritual applications. Okay? So let's look at this. We're going to start in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 1. Verse 21, just to get the backdrop on this lesson, on this story. So in Deuteronomy chapter 1, this is what the Father ended up saying to the people. In Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 21, he says, "Behold, Yah, thy Elohim, or the Lord your God, has set the land before thee, or before you. Go up and possess it." Possess what? The land. "As Yah, Elohim of thy fathers, has said unto thee, fear not, neither be discouraged." So he told them to go up and possess this land. I didn't even see it. I didn't pay attention to it. But he also says this in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 8. Deuteronomy 1, verse 8. It also says, "Behold, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land." So he's talking about this land. He tells them, "Behold, Yah, thy Elohim, has set the land before you. Go up and possess it. As Yah, Elohim of your fathers, has said unto thee, or said unto you, fear not, neither be discouraged." Fear and discouragement keeps us from possessing the land. Fear and discouragement keeps us from possessing the land. So now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 2. And now I'm gonna read from 24 through 36, but we're gonna key in on a few verses to just pull out some emphasis in the verses. So I'm going to read from Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 24 through 36. It says, "Rise ye up, take your journey, and pass over the river Arnon. Behold, I have given into thy hand Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, and contend with him in battle. This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven, who shall hear report of thee, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee. And I sent messengers out of the wilderness of Kedemoth unto Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, Let me pass through thy land. I will go along by the highway. I will neither turn unto the right hand nor to the left. Thou shalt sell me meat for money, that I may eat, and give me water for money, that I may drink. Only I will pass through on my feet. As the true children of Esau, which dwell in Seir, and the Moabites which dwell at Ar, did unto me, until I shall pass over Jordan, into the land which Yah, our Elohim, giveth us, or the Lord our God gives us." Verse 30, "But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us pass by him. For the Lord thy God, or Yah, thy Elohim, hardened his heart, and made his heart obstinate, that he might deliver him into thy hand, as pertaineth this day. And Yah said unto me, Behold, I have begun to give Sihon and his land before thee. Begin to possess, that thou mayest inherit his land. Then Sihon came out against us, he and all his people, to fight at YAH'S. And the Lord our God, Yah our Elohim, delivered him before us, and we smote him and his sons and all his people. And we took all his cities at that time, and utterly destroyed the men and the women and the little ones of every city. We left none to remain, only the cattle we took for a prey unto ourselves, and the spoil of the cities which we took from Arnon, from Arar, which is by the brink of the river Arnon, and from the city that is by the river, even unto Gilead. There was not one city too strong for us. Yah our Elohim, or the Lord our God, delivered all unto us." All right, so we're going to look at some some key verses in this Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 24 through 36 about possessing the land. And this is a faith and a trust series, part 1. Verse 24. Rise ye up, take your journey, and pass over to the river of Arnon. Behold, I have given into thine hand Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, and contend with him in battle. Begin to possess it, and contend with him in battle. So what the Father tells us first to do is to rise up and take your journey. We know we're in the wilderness, typifying the wilderness that the children of Israel went through. We're in a wilderness right now. We need to take our journey. We have to rise up. What stops us from rising up? The first thing I thought of was in the book of John, chapter 5. Let's go there. When he says, rise ye up. Let's go to the book of John, chapter 5, real fast. John, chapter 5. Rise ye up and take your journey. We're looking at faith, and we're talking about faith and trust. This is the Messiah when he came to this man who was, I think he had a sickness for 38 years. He had an infirmity for 38 years. So we're in John chapter 5. John chapter 5, starting at verse 5, it says, and a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. And when when Jesus saw him lie, and knew that he had been now a long time in that case. So he sees this man who has an infirmity of 38 years. It says when Jesus saw him, he knew that he had been now a long time in that case. He said unto him, wilt thou be made whole? So the Messiah asked this man, he knows he's been here for a long time, will you be made whole? He's lying on his ground. In verse 7, look what this man says. The impotent man answered him, sir, I have no man, when the water is troubled, to put me into the pool, but while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. Jesus saith unto him, rise, take up your bed, and walk. Verse 9, and immediately the man was made whole and took up his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. So what do we see here? The Messiah sees this man for 38 years in John 5. John chapter 5, verse 5 through 9. He sees him. He knows all things. We know that he knows everything. He knew he had this infirmity, and he had this infirmity 38 years. When Yahushua saw him, he knew that he was there for a long time in that case, and he asked this man, will you be made whole? We know we have enemies, just like right here, when the Father told them, I'm giving into your hand Sihon, the Amorite, the king of Heshbon, again to possess the land and contend with him in this battle, contend with him in the battle. The Messiah told him to raise up. He asked him, would you be made whole? In verse 7, this man gave excuses. He gave an excuse. How can I go down to the pool when the people are going down before me? I can't get down there. I can't possess this land. I can't overcome. We will never overcome when we lack faith. We will never overcome when we lack faith. He says, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool. But while I am coming, another steps down before me. But what does the Messiah say? Rise up, take up your bed, and walk. It's similar to this right here in Deuteronomy 2. Rise ye up, take your journey. If you want to walk, you're going to have to walk in faith. You're going to have to rise up in faith. Because why? Take your journey, pass over the river of Arnon. Behold, I have given into thy hand Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Given. The word given is past tense. So we always move from a place of already being victorious. We hear this a lot in various teachings that we're victorious in the Messiah. We are. We truly are. We move from the place of victory, from what he has already done. As he told them, rise up, take your journey, and pass over the river Arnon. Behold, I have given into thy hand. It's already given. It's already ours. He's saying this is past tense, basically. I have given into thy hand. Similar to like the promises to Abraham. He told Abraham what he was going to give him as if he had already gave it to him. I have given into thy hand Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it and contend with him in battle. So if he's given us this land, why do we have to contend with it? Lack of faith. Lack of faith. Doubt. Fear. Unbelief is what we can see in our lives. When he told them, behold, Yah, thy Elohim has set the land before thee, go up and possess it, as Yah Elohim of thy fathers has said unto thee, fear not, neither be discouraged. We can't fear nor be discouraged. Why do we have to contend if he's already given us the land? Why do we have to contend? Why do we have to still war? Why do we have to still wrestle, contend, even though he's given us this land? Because they're going to fight with us. And sometimes we fight against ourselves. The enemy fights with us. He fights against us. We can't just let the enemy run over us. We have power in the Messiah. We can't just let him run over us. We have to begin to possess this land and contend with him in battle. As it says right here in Deuteronomy 2, verse 24, contend with him in battle. I've already given him into your hand. The Messiah has already defeated the powers of darkness on the cross. He says, behold, I give unto you power to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. But nothing shall by any means hurt you. He's already given us power over the enemy. But we must contend with him in battle, or we will lose this battle. We will lose. All right, let's look at another verse. Let's look at another verse in verse 31. It says, and Yah said unto me, behold, I have begun to give Sihon and his land before thee. Begin to possess, that thou mayest inherit his land. So it says he has begun to give Sihon and his land before us. We have to begin to possess it that we may inherit his land. How can we look at this in a spiritual application? Let's go to Revelation chapter 21. I see similar words right here. That thou mayest inherit his land. That thou mayest inherit his land. And even going back up to 24, when it says he's already given it into our hands, but we still have to begin to possess it, and we have to contend with him in battle. Contend with him in battle. Let's look at Revelation chapter 21, verse 7. It says, it's talking about this land. It's talking about the new kingdom, the new heavens and the new earth. But in verse 7, it says, he that overcometh shall inherit all things. So in this Deuteronomy 31, it says that thou mayest inherit his land. In Revelation 21, it says, to him who overcometh, or to him who overcomes, shall inherit. To him who overcomes shall inherit. So how do we look at this now? The only person who inherits is the one who overcomes. There are things to overcome in our lives. We know there are things to overcome. If we have not overcome, we know that there are things to overcome. As I looked at but as I posted a video a few days ago, or either yesterday, it was about once saved, always saved. And I mentioned some verses in there that it says, if a man does these things or dies in these things, the scripture says, whosoever doeth these things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yah. Those things should be overcome. To him that overcometh shall inherit all things. And right after this verse, it says, he that overcometh, Revelation 21, verse 7, shall inherit all things, and I will be his Elohim, or I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and the unbelieving and the abominable and the murderers and the whoremongers and the sorcerers and the idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. He that overcometh those things, because those attributes, those characteristics, those sins shall not be in this land. It should not be in his land, for sure. It should not be in his land. So there is some overcoming that we must do. Deuteronomy 2, verse 31, and Yah said unto me, behold, I have begun to give Sihon and his land before thee. Begin to possess, that thou mayest inherit his land. Verse 6, it says, from Eror, which is by the brink of the river Anon, and from the city that is by the river, even unto Gilead, there was not one city too strong for us. Why? Yah, our Elohim, delivered all unto us. There was not one city too strong for us. Why? Because the Most High, our Father, God, has delivered all unto us. He delivered everything into our hands. Does this not say this in the book of Colossians? How can we look at this? How can we look at this in our walks today? In the book of Colossians, chapter 1, verse 12 through 13. In the book of Colossians, chapter 1, 12 through 13, it says, giving thanks unto the Father. So even it's just starting off, it says, giving thanks unto the Father. Giving thanks unto the Father. Colossians 1, 12 and 13. Giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness. Who hath? Hath. Basically, it's has. Who has? What is has? Past tense. Who has delivered us from the powers of darkness and translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son. Do we see this past tense? Who has delivered us? Who hath delivered us from the power of darkness? What did he say right here in Deuteronomy 2, verse 24? Rise ye up, take your journey, and pass over the river of Arnon. Behold, I have given into thy hand Sihon, the king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it and contend with him. But he has already given it to us. What did he just say here? Giving thanks to the Father, which has delivered us from the power of darkness and has translated us into the kingdom of his Son. He's already did it. Past tense. This happened at that stake where the Messiah triumphed over all principalities and powers. It says in the same book of Colossians, he already triumphed over principalities and powers. Greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. We have all power over darkness. We have all power over the works of the devil. By the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. We have to speak these things. We have to speak these things, just like in the book of Joshua. He said they had to go to this city every day, walk around it for once 6 days, and then the last day you walk around it 7 days, and then you have to speak. You need to yell. I want you to shout. We have to open our mouth. We have to speak these things. We have to speak faith. Because death and life are in the power of the tongue. We have to speak faith. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. So we see, even going back to this Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 36, it says, there was not one city too strong for us. There is not anything that we cannot overcome. Why? Yah, our Elohim, delivered all unto us. Or the Lord our God has delivered all unto us. It's a cooperation. It's a cooperation. We see he gave us the land right here. I have given into thy hand Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. But on our part, begin to possess it and contend with him in battle. Contend with him in battle. It's like Philippians. I wrote it here. It's pretty small. Philippians chapter 2, verse 13. It says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God which works in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. We have spiritual problems. It's more so spiritual problems than physical, as it was back then. So we work out our salvation with fear and trembling. Why? Because it's the Father. It's the Most High that works in us by his Spirit, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. It's a cooperating. And we can see this also in the book of Judges. Let's go to Judges now. Judges chapter 7. Judges chapter 7. How do we possess the land? Judges chapter 7, verse 9 through 18. Verse 9 through 18, it says, and it came to pass the same night that Yah said unto him, arise, get thee down into the host, for I have delivered it into thy hand. So just starting off, even before we go too far, in Judges chapter 7, verse 9 through 18. The Father says the same thing. He wants us to move from a place of victory. In verse 9, and it came to pass the same night that Yah said unto him, arise. That's his first call to us. Wake up. Get up. Why are you complaining? Why are you worrying? Get up. You know who child you are. You know who I am. You know who you are in me. So he says, arise, get thee down into the host, for I have. We see the same thing again. I have, past tense, delivered it into your hand. Okay? Verse 10. Now we're in verse 10 in Judges chapter 7. But if thou fear to go down, go thou with Parah, thy servant, down to the host. We see the same thing. When we're going to possess the land, these areas in our lives, our minds, the things in our minds, what we're thinking, what we're doing. Because we want to glorify the Most High in all that we do. It says, and whatever you eat, whatever you drink, or whatever you do, give all the glory to Yah. So we want to glorify him in all these things in our lives. But he told them, after he's delivered it into their hands, but if thou fear to go down, go thou with Parah, thy servant, down to the host. So he's talking to Gideon, but he says, and he mentions this thing again, but if you fear, fear and being discouraged keeps us from possessing the land. He mentions that all the time. It's always mentioned when he talks about us doing something, or he's giving this into our hands, because he knows we're about to go into a battle. But he's already given us the victory. He knows we're about to go into the battle. We have to trust him. We have to trust his grace. We have to trust his power and be strong in the might of his power. So in verse 10, but if thou fear to go down, go with Parah, thy servant, down to the host, and thou shalt bear what they say. Thou shalt hear what they say, and afterward shall thine hands be strengthened to go down to the host. Then went he down with Parah his servant into the outside of the armed men that were in the host. And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand by the seaside for multitude. And when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow, and said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came unto the tent, and smote it, that it fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay alone. And his fellow answered and said, This is nothing else save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. For into his hand hath Elohim, God, delivered Midian and all the host. And it was so, when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshipped and returned into the host of Israel, and said, Arise, for Yah hath delivered into our hand the host of Midian. So the Father, I love how the Father exhorts us. He encourages us. He basically is telling us what he's about to do and showing us in practical ways. I've given this land into your hands. I've given him into your hands. But he tells them, go down and listen to the dream, that you may be strengthened. That's what he said in verse 11. Look, I've already delivered it to you, but because you're my child, you're my son, I want you to be encouraged. Go down and listen to that dream he's about to say, that you might be strengthened. I already know my word is true, is what he's saying, but I want you to hear it again. He does that to me all the time. He wants us to hear it again, that we might be strengthened. So Gideon said, the Lord has delivered the hand of the host of Midian into our hands. Verse 16, and he delivered the 300 men. He divided the 300 men, into 3 companies, and put a trumpet into every man's hand, with empty pitchers, and lamps within the pitchers. And he said unto them, Look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall ye do. This is the verse 18. Talking about this, work out our own salvation with fear and trembling, and it is the Father who works in us. Verse 18. When I blow with the trumpet, I and all that are with me, then blow ye the trumpets also on every side of the camp, and say, The sword of Yah and the sword of Gideon, or the sword of the Lord and the sword of Gideon. So he mentions 2 swords. The sword of the Lord, or the sword of Yah, and the sword of Gideon. Do we see this cooperation here? So when he came, I want you to say these things. The sword of Yah first. It's him. It's him first. We know we can't do anything without his power. We don't live, breathe, or do anything without him. The sword of Yah and the sword of Gideon. And the sword of Gideon. So we see again this cooperation right here. We see again this promise the Father gives. I've already given this land unto you. Go in and possess it. But we cannot be fearful, and we cannot be discouraged, and we cannot make excuse. As it says, as we looked at in John chapter 5, when the Messiah told the same man to rise ye up, basically, arise, take up your bed, and walk. And luckily, he said he immediately rose up because he had faith when he heard the word. And how does faith come? Romans 10:17. If we are lacking in faith, we just the simplest thing we need to do is hear more of the Father's words and really listen, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Yah. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. So we just need to hear his word. Faith and trust, possessing the land, possessing every area in our lives that we know is not in line with him, or the things in our lives that we know can be better for his glory, that we know can be better. And as he said right here, back in Deuteronomy 2 now, in Deuteronomy 2 verse 36, there was not one city too strong for us. So we can be encouraged. There's nothing too strong. There's no sin too strong. There's no temptation that is taking man that is not common to man. But as it says, God is faithful, who has not suffered us to be tempted more than we're able, but with the temptation will give us a way to escape. Okay, he will always give us a way to escape. Power is in the place of humility. We need to know our need for him. We need him in everything. We need him. We need him to walk this walk that he's called us to. We need him to walk in holiness. We need him to walk in righteousness every day. We cannot do all these things by ourselves, but with him we are more than conquerors. We are more than conquerors. And I want to end with this verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 2. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 3 through 5. It says, and I was with you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling, and my speech and my preaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but in the demonstration of the Spirit and of power, that your faith should not stand in the wisdom of man, but in the power of God, in the power of God, in the power of Yah. So we see right here, Paul says, I was with you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling, and my speech and my preaching was not with enticing words, with man's wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and power. That our faith should not rest in the wisdom of man, but in the power of his Spirit, his power in us, working in us both to will and to do of his good pleasure, that we may possess the land, both the land to come and possess these areas in our lives and be more than conquerors, walking in victory. So I pray this study blessed you. I love you. I really do. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as I always say, Shalom.